Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pipeline to Abundance, the series where we sit down with a life science founder shaping the next decade of medicine and the investor journey behind them. I'm Rhythm Gupta, your host, and today I'm joined by the team behind PredicTx, a University of Melbourne spinout using AI to personalize chemotherapy dosing from scans patients have already had. And with us today are Abhijeet Waykar, the CEO and co-founder, and Professor Justin Yeung, Chief Medical Officer and a Professor of Surgery at the University of Melbourne. We'll first start our conversation with Abhijeet on the company and the opportunity, then we'll turn to Justin on the clinical reality behind it. Abhijeet, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Rhythm, for that wonderful introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So, Abhijeet, let's start simple. Let's say that, we are sitting at dinner and you have someone sitting with you, a person that doesn't have any background with healthcare and no background in tech as well. So, how would you describe what PredicTx actually does?
Right. So PredicTx basically helps oncologists personalize chemotherapy dose using routinely done imaging data for patients. So if you look at chemotherapy, the way currently it's done based on a 100-year-old formula based on height and weight. So we are trying to change that, change from one size fits all to a precision medicine so that patients can tolerate the chemotherapy dose better and continue on to the treatment and also finish the treatment as well.
Absolutely, very interesting. And that's, I think, that's the part that people don't realize is that the information is already sitting in the scan that they have had. So, Abhijit, you've had a long career in medical imaging, Siemens, Philips, 4D Medical, and you've already also founded a digital health company before this. So, you actually didn't need to start over. So, what did you see in cancer dosing that made you go again? So, let's start with that.
Thank you. So I've spent years working with companies like Siemens, Philips and all, but what I've seen is overall throughout my career of last 15, 20 years working with radiologists, cardiologists, there's still a lot of legacy thinking out there. And when I met Justin 3 years ago, when he came to me and then the problem he was working on, and he explained me how chemotherapy is still being given to patients the way it's been done, I was completely shocked and I thought there should be a better way of doing that as well. And then using that knowledge which I have gained over the last 15 years. I've used that technology adoption and I wanted to do something better for the cancer patients because it's also a personal journey for me. I had my family went through cancer as well, and I felt an instant connect that this is something I should definitely do. And there's a lot of evolution of technology which has happened recently of use of AI, and there's a lot of processing power available for processing large amounts of imaging data. So I thought let's use that technology to help the cancer patients a bit better.
So, Abhijit, now let's talk about what that actually looks like commercially, because that is where the investors, they want to find out about the economics and they find it very counterintuitive. So, PredicTx actually charges hospital a certain amount to generate a personalized dosing report, and the downstream cost of getting a chemotherapy dose wrong, the readmissions, toxicity, the wasted drug is also quite significant. So, can you tell us about the costs and also how a hospital makes that decision and what that means for the way that you've structured your business?
So as of now, hospital already spends enormous amounts of money to actually manage the chemotherapy complications for cancer patients. Mm-hmm. So we have priced this solution at $500 per CT based on our health economics assessment, because we found out that patients in general spends around $50,000 in toxicities, and it can go up to $500,000 depending on the complexities as well. So in that case, when you look at from a finance perspective for a hospital, it's a 100x return of investment as well. But apart from that, what we have done is we have made it easy for our solution to be embedded with the existing system as well, so that the clinician can save a lot of time and effort for them to look for information from scattered across multiple systems into one. So they save at least 15 to 20 minutes per patient per consult as well. So there's a double benefit of not just the return of investment for the hospital, but apart from that, also for the clinicians, and at the same downstream impact for the patients.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So let's actually now talk about what that looks like commercially. So help me understand the economics, because this is a bit where I think investors find investors find counterintuitive. So PredicTx actually charges a hospital around $500 to generate a personalized dosing report. And the downstream cost of getting a chemotherapy dose wrong, the readmissions, the toxicity, the wasted drug, which is around $50,000 per patient. So can you walk us through how a hospital makes that decision and what that means for the way that you've structured this business?
Yep. So as of now, currently, hospital spends a lot of time or a lot of money already on patients on the toxicity cost as well.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, $50,000 is a bare minimum. It can go up to $500,000 depending on the severity of the toxicity as well. So what we're trying to do is we have priced it at $500 per CT per patient as well. So which you look at, it's a 100x ROI, return of investment for the hospital in that case. But at the same time, we didn't want to make it onerous on hospital to adopt a technology which is going to be not as cost effective as well. So we've priced it based on our health and economics assessment, which we have done through industry partners, which have helped us understand the actual cost hospital has to bear. Apart from that, the clinicians, as you know, there's a lot of shortage of resources in the healthcare, and there's a lot of clinician burnout and healthcare staff burnout as well. So what we're trying to do is with our technology, present all the data in one platform to them so that they can save a lot of time, which they currently waste on looking at the information from multiple different systems. So there's a lot of value provided by the solution, not just from the return of investment for the hospital, but also for the clinicians as well. And at the end, that benefits the patients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the kind of thing that I'm sure that our viewers listening, they want to hear and lean forward to. But the reason that this matters is not at all financial, it's clinical. And for that, I want to bring in the person who has been on the other side of this for years, so Professor Justin Yeung. But first, I really want to thank you, Abhijeet, for sharing your insights and the work that you're currently doing.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Justin, welcome. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me, Rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Justin, you've spent your career as a surgeon and then a clinical researcher at Western Health and the University of Melbourne. So, without naming anyone, was there a specific patient or a specific moment in a clinic where you looked at how you were dosing chemotherapy and you thought that we have to change this now?
Well, for sure. I mean, thank you for that question. Cancer's been my primary goal in getting into medicine. I wanted to become a cancer surgeon because I always thought that that was the best way, the only way of curing people of cancer. Cancer's so common. I mean, we're seeing it more and more often, much more in younger people, and those people, it's much more aggressive. So the paradigm of treatment has changed from purely surgery to be focusing more on multimodal, multiple treatments, but starting mainly with chemotherapy. And it doesn't matter whether it's within my field of colorectal cancer, which is the third most common cause of cancer death, unfortunately, but chemotherapy is used for multiple forms of cancers that we see worldwide. And the problem with chemotherapy is that we dose it in a very archaic, very old-fashioned way. We only use two parameters of a patient to actually calculate the dose. So you can have two patients who have the same height and weight. Those are the two parameters. So I give the example of a bodybuilder and a sumo wrestler. Same height and weight, so they have the same chemotherapy dose. But the sumo wrestler will get severe toxicities because they're incorrectly overdosed. And therefore they get all these terrible side effects, which then even stop their ability to have their next treatment of chemotherapy. Whereas the bodybuilder, very few of our patients are bodybuilders. Bodybuilders generally actually tolerate the chemotherapy really well. So we talk about gender balance. Women are terribly overdosed compared to men. It's because we're just using very simple parameters. So going back to your question about a patient, I recall very clearly a patient of mine. She was a busy mum. She worked in technology. She was very young, and then to be given the diagnosis of colorectal cancer and then asked to have chemotherapy, she reading about all these risks of having chemotherapy, she really didn't want to go through that because she didn't want to risk losing her job or ability to look after her small children. So she was really lost when she saw me what else she could do. So it's a terrible situation. It's not just happens one patient, it's every patient I see goes through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure like our viewers watching have had someone that they know or they're related to, go through that. So that helps them understand. Now tell us, how is chemotherapy dose actually decided today? And is it true that the formula that is being used was invented more than 100 years ago?
Yeah, well, you're spot on. It's chemotherapy was developed 60, 70 years ago. And at that time, the only way to guide the clinician,
Yeah.
the cancer doctor, how to treat the patient with allowing them to calculate the right dose was using that height and weight measurement.
Yeah.
And as clinicians, we tend to keep on doing things the same way because we're either too busy or we don't have the research know-how, or there's a lack of understanding how to make things better. And that's why we continue to dose patients with this really terrible formula. So 7 out of 8 patients are overdosed. And we know that if you're overdosed, you get the dose wrong, then these patients never finish or highly unlikely to finish their chemotherapy dosing. So in fact, 1 out of 3 of these patients who are overdosed never get to finish their treatment. And what does that mean? It means that they may have nothing else to go to, and therefore the cancer gets more severe and more aggressive and they die of their cancer. So it's a terrible situation to be. So there clearly needs to be a better way of doing things, and there hasn't until now.
Yeah. Wow, really good to know that. Now, Justin, what does that actually mean for the patients today in the clinic? Like out of 10 cancer patients walking into hospital tomorrow, how many are actually getting a dose that's right for them? And when it's wrong, then what are the consequences for the patient and for the family around them?
Yeah, great question. I think I'll answer your question in a very simple way. Most are overdose. 7 out of 8 times dosing by specialists who have years and years of experience. We are unable to dose patients well with the information that we currently have. And PredicTx Health, our solution, revolutionizes that.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to the patient? Well, first of all, clinicians have normalized, in other words, told patients that it's normal to expect those side effects. Push through it because there's no other way, which isn't entirely true now.
Yeah.
And if you look at Australia, many of our patients are at risk. They may not understand English. They may not have that health literacy. So they don't understand when something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
So if they get the side effects and they're not explained to them because the doctors don't have any time to do that, then what happens when they do get the side effects? They lose confidence in the system.
Yeah.
They may not come back. They may not be able to tell their loved ones that they're unwell, and so they get iller and iller at home before coming into hospital. And that goes back to what Abhijeet's comment about the cost to the health system is immense, not just the financial cost of treating these patients as emergency inpatient treatment or giving them extra drugs to take home to try and dampen their side effects. But you imagine if a patient who's planned to come in for the day for treatment, for chemotherapy, and if they get the side effects, then that chair becomes empty. That drug that's pre-made gets thrown away.
Right.
The doctor, the nurse, the pharmacist, and all the other support services just waiting there to treat someone who actually isn't there. What a terrible waste of resources.
Yeah.
And that happens anywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a gap that PredicTx is now working on closing. So that's wonderful to know. So tell me something, when you and Abhijeet sat down to, start PredicTx, you've been thinking about this problem for years. So what changed that made it possible to actually solve it now?
Great question. Oh, there's 2 parts. Well, there's 3 parts. Number one, it's the ability for us to understand that information that's already there, the millions and millions of bits of information on the CT scans that we routinely do. So the wonderful thing about our product is that we don't require the patient to have any further tests. We use routinely performed CT scans which has all that extra information that as a clinician I never was taught, I never could understand. But now with my research background, with the advent of advanced machine learning, that we can interpret all those images and those patterns that we found out makes a difference to be able to then correlate to giving an answer. And having Abhijeet on board, his experience is that integration piece, being able to seamlessly connect different systems, legacy systems which don't talk to current systems. Patients have tests done outside of their own treatment institution. So I'll give you a good example. If someone has chemotherapy, they need to have blood tests that are done up to date. Some of these patients will have the blood test done nearer to home because it's easier for them. That blood test result does not come to the treating cancer clinician's dashboard on the screen. And so what does that mean? The patient comes in, they don't have the blood test, then what we do, we send them home for another blood test. So their time is wasted, the hospital time is wasted. One of my recent patients has spent $50,000 in their own costs for taxi fares because they've come from more regional areas to central areas to have it treated. But because of all these interruptions, delays, side effects, it's an amazing amount of money that's being thrown away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was something that we never could have thought of as well. And, that also adds up like a significant amount. Now, as we wrap up this interview, I want you to think of the future. Let's say like 5 years from now, if PredicTx has done what you and Abhijeet believe that it can, what is different for a cancer patient walking into a hospital today walking into a hospital that isn't true today?
I want to go back to where I started as a doctor. I became a doctor because I wanted the patient to be the center of care. Currently, patients aren't the center of care. They're kind of part of it. They're almost ignored. The doctor will be on their screen looking for those results. Rarely do they talk to the patient. Their time is spent trying to find those results. So that 10-minute appointment is spent just dosing that patient and not really understanding what their true needs are. So we're just ignoring the patient, which is who are the most important thing. So I see our continued journey, what we're able to provide is to bring back that treatment to the patient, to make them centered, giving them the precision medicine, and really giving them the best care that we should be giving them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great answer, Justin. And thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us. Now, there is a line in this interview that I keep coming back to, that the information needed to dose every cancer patient correctly is already sitting in a scan that they've already had, and we just haven't been reading it. And that's what PredicTx is changing. My thanks to Abhijeet and Justin for joining me. And for our viewers watching, if you would like to learn more about PredicTx or about the round that they are currently raising, the details are on the screen. I'm your host. Thanks for watching, and this has been the Pipeline to Abundance. Thank you.